Hi, hello, welcome to this video. You have read the title already. You know what this video is going to be about.
Today's subject is slavery.
Back when I was a Muslim kid, there's this word in the Quran that I never understood what it means. It goes like this: what your right hand possess.
What the hell is even that?
But then I learned that this means your slaves. So yes, Islam does allow slavery and it regulates it. Now let's try and speed run through the Quranic verses and the hadiths, okay? Because there's a lot of them in this shit. Here's a verse. Not only does this verse allow slavery, but also allows retribution, which is a very backwards and disgusting behavior. Also, it does separate people into three categories, which are not equal: women, free men, and slaves. A verse where Allah makes a comparison between a free man and a slave. Again, a verse where you can be naked in front of your slaves. A verse where Allah allows Muhammad to have sex with slaves and any woman he wants. A verse about making your slaves marry each other so they can make slave babies. Hadith about Muhammad selling 2 black slaves for an Arab slave. A hadith about how you should not beat your wife like you beat your slaves. A verse that allows the rape of married women and taking them as sex slaves. More hadiths about slaves serving Muhammad buying and selling slaves and sending them back to slavery from people who wanted to free them from slavery. And Muhammad getting mad at his wife for freeing a slave girl. He really didn't like freeing slaves now, did he? It also have been said that Muhammad had more than 40 slaves, and he bought and sold and raped many of them. Now Muslims will say that Islam did encourage freeing slaves for the forgiveness of sins. Well, that might be true. Islam did not make slavery forbidden, and it did not want to end it. If anything, it encouraged taking slaves in war and from selling them and buying them. There is nothing in Islam that says that slavery will end or it should end. It treats it as something normal that should keep going, as if it was a good thing. Muslims will say Islam wanted to end slavery or it was a bad thing in Islam, but it's a lie. It never was. And even when it said that slaves should be freed for the forgiveness of sins, it only meant Muslim slaves, not non-Muslim slaves. And when they say that Islam treated slaves better, well, that's also a lie, because the Romans did free slaves and treat them better than the Muslims ever did. But that's not the point. The right of a slave is not to be a slave. Enslaving someone is a very bad and disgusting behavior. You will also hear Muslims say, well, other cultures had slaves. Well, other cultures freed slaves too, better than Islam. But they seem to forget that these cultures that had slaves, they never claimed to be perfect, and no one says that they are perfect or should be followed. Unlike Islam, who does claim that. No one ever said that the Roman gods or the Roman religions are perfect and we should follow them. But they say that about Islam and its shit morals. Since Islam did what other cultures did, that only means that Islam is a product of its time, a wrong religion that should die like other religions did. But you will see Muslims online defend Islamic slavery. So don't be surprised when you see how shitty the Islamic world is towards human rights. Don't let me get started on the fact that the hijab was introduced because Omar saw the Prophet's wife going to take a shit outside, and also to make a difference between slave women and free women. Or the fact that slavery ended in Saudi Arabia in 1962. The only reason slavery ended, it was not because of Islam. It was because of the UN and non-Muslims. Islam had organized slavery before a lot of people did, and continued it until the last century, after everyone else abolished it. And in a way it never ended, because in Saudi Arabia and the other Gulf countries they have a system called kafil, which is a new form of slavery, where they bring poor foreigners to work in their country, and they take from them their passports and their documents, so they can't leave. And when a family brings in one of these workers, they do the same thing, so they can't escape or can't leave, and if they do, they will be imprisoned. And they can't leave the country unless their kafil wants them to leave, the guy who gave them the work and brought them to the country to work. Basically, their master. He's the only one who can decide when they leave. Basically, when he decides to free them. You can look deeper into it if you want, but only gets worse.